So, hello guys, welcome back to another video of our podcast named Hackcast, and this is the 30th episode of the podcast with Gunnar Andrew. And today we'll be discussing a lot of topics related to bug bounties and all those cybersecurity fields. So, before going into the video, I would like to announce a few things. We are having Advanced Bug Bounty Batch 3 out of registrations. You only got 2 days for registration. It's gonna be ending this month. And also, we are having registration for Bug Bounty Beginner Batch 11. For those who are interested in the beginning batches, you can check out the courses. All the courses contents are same, but in this time, they're having a huge discount on all the courses. So definitely you should check out. And also, we're having a lot of recorded courses, as you guys can see here. And other than this recorded courses, you can also check out the links in the description for the free resources, free learnings, and all those things. And let's get in the video. So, guys, here we are with Gunnar Andrew, and he will introduce himself. So,
Yeah, so my name is Gunnar Andrews. I go online by the alias of Golden sometimes, and my YouTube channel and Twitch and stuff like that is normally under that alias. I do AppSec full-time, cloud security full-time. I'm a bug bounty hunter on the side. I do security tooling and, again, some content creation on my own. But I'm a big cybersecurity enthusiast. I try and get hands in as much stuff as I can. So thanks for letting me come on and chat.
definitely, man, that's been a great thing for us too. So, as I have seen that you're into bug bounties in SRT by profile. So, in our podcast, we usually start with a very curious question. Like everyone has a story that why they got into cybersecurity or the hacking field, right? So, what's the story behind going into this field, and what's the curiosity?
So I have a story for me that I think I have heard from a few other people, but my story is pretty simple. So when I was a kid, and even now, I'm pretty into video games and gaming. When I was a kid, was pretty much the prime time for games like RuneScape, the early days of World of Warcraft, League of Legends, stuff like that were all like pretty brand new. And because of that, it was pretty easy for people to either phish accounts or just in general, like hack the games. So I actually went through, when I was very young, of course, like an experience that a lot of people had, whether it was from clicking on a bad link or doing something dumb. Got a few of my accounts hacked. And then, of course, like when you were in game, saw hackers that like couldn't die or could fly or had infinite ammo in some kind of game.
So,
And that's
it's all
really
about the mods. In
Yep,
case.
Yep. So that's really what got me started. So in the beginning, I was actually hacking like the very old versions of like some Roblox mini games when I was a kid, and trying to like get infinite life, as well as I was involved in the scene for Halo Combat Evolved Online when that was still a thing on the computer, and making mods for that and stuff like that, so you could teleport and fly and stuff like that. So that's how it started, and then it kind of transitioned into when I was going to school and stuff like that. Kind of found out that can be a whole career path, and that's kind of where it went.
So it was started by just the games and having the unlimited ammo issues, the health issues, and all those things that we all have done using the Lucky Patcher and all those tools, right? We all have the memory of the smiley emoji tool, right? The Lucky Patch and all
Yep.
those things. So yeah, we all started from that, but in the end, that becomes a career for you.
Yep. So basically, I like I said, after high school here, I decided to go to university, and I studied computer engineering. Did the software development track for a while, software engineering, that kind of thing.
Yep.
It was fun, but it wasn't as fun. And then that's kind of when I discovered pen testing, red teaming, like just in general, ethical hacking and offensive security. And I kind of like basically found my way back to the hacking side of things. And that's, once I figured out that people do that just for work, that kind of sealed the deal for me. And I haven't looked back since then. So it's been like probably 5 or 6 years now.
So that was just because of the games. Now, after that, currently you're into the SRT, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
So a lot of people are having doubts. What is red teaming and what is pen testing? What is bug bounties? Are they all same? They are different, or what's that? Like, can you elaborate red teaming for me?
So yeah, there's the difference that people talk about between red teaming and pen testing. So red teaming is more of like adversary emulation to me, where pen testing is more you're like finding flaws that like, yes, could be exploited in whether it be software or a mobile application or anything like that. But red teaming is a little bit more like actually trying to get like a foothold in someone's network and trying to like, move laterally and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of a difference between red teaming and pen testing. Bug bounty gets into something a little bit different. At least as of right now, as far as I'm aware, there's not really like a bug bounty for red teaming. If you're doing red teaming, you're normally doing it for either like a consultancy or like you're doing it for work for like a company of some kind, whether you're running your own company or working for someone else. Where bug bounty is more of a spin-off of actual pen testing. Like pen testing isn't the same as bug bounty, as a lot of people will tell you. You need to actually have impact, which I always like to talk about as the biggest thing for people starting bug bounties to realize is like going for the impact is always the best thing. But there's less of a difference between pen testing and bug bounties, in my opinion, than there is between bug bounties and red teaming. Red teaming is not as relatable to bug bounty, I would say.
Like both of them are different, right? In simple word, I will say. Like all the things are different, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're all different from each other. Because again, the best part about bug bounties is you can start it from anywhere with no background if you really want. There's no barrier to entry to bug bounties. That's the one area of cyber. I know a lot of people are complaining about the barrier to entry of cyber and getting entry positions in cyber, and bug bounty is like a really, really good way for someone who, whether you have a degree or not, like anyone who has an interest to get involved. So that's one of the benefits. Like pen testing and red teaming normally means you're in some kind of a corporate environment or you're working on some kind of software that's normally paid and are getting paid to do it. So with that is where people run into the barrier of entry for positions like that. But bug bounty, anyone can do it. So it's kind of cool.
So we can also say that like bug bounties and all these things are these days overrated at some point. I have heard this a lot of times that everyone is gonna be going for the dollars and all those things, but no one is going there for curiosity and exploitations. What are your opinions on it? Is it actually gonna be overrated these days or what?
So you're talking about bug bounty, correct?
Yep.
So, I mean, the bug bounty scene, I wasn't like a huge player in the beginning, but I've like personally spoke to a bunch of people who were big names in the beginning and who, were like, I've talked to some like the original 15 hackers on HackerOne when it was like just Yahoo, and that was like the only program on HackerOne. So I don't have personal experience, but I've talked to quite a few people about it, and then I have personal experience of the bug bounty scene a little bit more like as it is right now. And it's changed a lot. It has changed a lot. There's a lot of things. There's obviously a lot more competition. Like program scoping and the way programs handle bug bounty hunters has changed quite a bit. And there's always problems, and there's always going to be problems. And that's just kind of the same with any industry you work in, whether it's cyber or not. And yes, the skill level, I would say, or maybe the like type of techniques you have to use in bug bounty have like increased. I mean, back in the day when it was just very early bug bounties in the very early 2000s internet, I mean, like, yes, people were popping like just normal script tag XSSs on Yahoo like every day, right? Like, and like just SQL injections by just like putting a single quote and stuff and breaking it and like going from there. That doesn't happen so much anymore. Same thing, like there were a bunch of people that wrote, a Python script in an afternoon and started making thousands of dollars a month in subdomain takeovers. But that doesn't happen anymore because there's certain people that kind of like own that game. So it's definitely different than it used to be. I don't know if I'd say it's overrated because, again, my thing that I think a lot of people skip over about bug bounties is it's free entry. I mean,
Definitely.
you have to have a
The free
computer
entry
and
with
internet.
the free entry with no requirements and just the curiosity is the great thing for any beginners to be there, right? Did you started everything from bug bounties or got some certifications first?
So I went the corporate way. So I went to school for computer engineering and then kind of pivoted my way into security. I did like software engineering and then did some security engineering where I developed like internal tools and then kind of pivoted into like the red team pen testing. And then that's like kind of was my entry in. And then while I was there, so I have an OSCP, an OSWE, in the OSWA. So I do have certificates. So I did go that direction of going through like the corporate, like enterprise side, going to school, getting certificates, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But I've personally been shoulder to shoulder with plenty of pen testers and plenty of hackers that don't have a single degree or a single official certification that I would argue are better than me any day. So
Definitely. That's that's a big thing in cybersecurity, that there is nothing that can define you. Like some random guy from internet with just a hoodie can break the whole system, but not a guy with like tons of certification can do that. So it's all about skill based in cybersecurity. And personally, if I'm talking about cybersecurity, that's the favorite point that I usually like about this field. There is nothing that is specified, or there is something to compare anything or anything else. It's everything about skill based, right?
Yep. The other thing I would say too is like, when you talk about skill based too, is there's a lot of, what am I trying to say? There's too many skills for one person to normally know everything, right?
Yep.
I don't know anything about hardware hacking. I mean, I know the basics, like I know how to solder, right? And that's really about it. I don't know much else about hardware hacking. And there are people out there that are very, very, very incredibly good hardware hackers.
Yep.
That break some of the like most commonly known, whether it's the Xbox or a Switch or like IoT devices that like I wouldn't be able to touch. But then on the flip side, like those guys doing hardware hacking may really not know how to approach an Android application and try and see if it has any vulnerabilities or a web application or anything like that. There's just, cyber is such a wide thing that when you talk about skills, there's just so much room for people. Like even in bug bounties, like no matter how competitive it is, like I always recommend people find stuff they really like and then like find a niche. Like there's people in bug bounties that make an incredible living doing full-time bug bounties, and they only hack video games. So for other gamers like me, there's people on these platforms that only hack Fortnite and like just the Fortnite game, and they make a bunch of money every year because they're super familiar with Fortnite and the anti-cheat behind Fortnite, and only hack Fortnite all year long. They don't touch a single web application. They don't worry about recon. They don't do anything like that.
So it's
They just
just
break
about spending time, right?
Yep.
Like multiple people having different skills, they are having their different own niche and all those things. But yeah, if they are in some niche, then they're perfect in it, right? At some point, you can define them as perfect or the legendary players, right? If you're talking about the actual gods in the game, right? You all know that we are having a lot of players in the bug bounties. I will say that web hackings and all those things. We have heard of Namsek, Orwa, Godfather Orwa, Jason Hedrick, and a lot of people, right? These days. So that's a
And
very
it's
cool thing. And now, if you talk about bug bounties, um, what's your favorite bug? Like in a specific time?
so I would, it's kind of tied for me. So it's my favorite, even though I'm not the best at it yet. Is I'm really starting to go into some of the client side stuff. And basically what I mean by that is I've really started messing around quite a bit with like post message and iframes and stuff like that, and trying to like break some of those barriers that the browser tries to put in place, and then it's on developers to screw up or not. I've spent a lot of time doing the server side stuff as well as like a lot of the authentication stuff. So like the easy stuff like IDORs and stuff like that has been like my main focus, and then server side stuff of just like whether it's like stored XSS or SSRF or like stuff like that in the past. But I've really taken an interest recently in the client side stuff because I feel like there's like not a lot of people that are like really, really good at it. And I know because I've talked to a few of them recently that there's still people out there that like find quite a few of them out in the wild. You just have to know really like what to look for with like the current technology and the current mitigations that are in place. But at the same time, like from my YouTube channel and like DEF CON talks that I've done recently, you can kind of tell like I'm also a big automation guy. So I like the automation race. I know a lot of people hate it. I really enjoy it.
I'm into automation too much these days.
Yep.
That's a very great
all
topic.
the
We'll
bugs that come
definitely
with
discuss on it.
Yep. Yeah. So all the bugs that come with that are fun too. Like I said before, like I know a lot of people don't like hunt subdomain takeovers again because there's like 3 or 4 people that get 95% of them. But like to me, it's still fun. To me, the fact that you can like write your own software and write your own framework that has a chance to just like find things for you is just like such a cool feeling. To me, just as much as like manually hacking. So I look at automation a little bit different than other people. I don't see it as like a money machine. It's more of a passion project for me than anything. But those are probably like my two interests right now for bug types. Yeah.
So if we are done with the beard bug now, what's your methodology?
So I do pretty much similar to what a lot of people do. I really like the way Jason Haddix in some of his like videos and stuff, and I've taken his course, and he talks about it in the course too. But the way he talks about methodology, I kind of like really get down with quite a bit for the manual stuff. So recon aside, because again, I really like automating recon. I really like wide scope programs. I really like deep diving recon. But that's pretty much, I mean, that information is pretty public on how that's done. Whether it's like SSL certs or active brute forcing or a mass or subfinder or whatever you want to do. There's a bajillion different ways to do recon. But I like doing really deep recon, and we can talk more about that. But that's basically recon first, and I try and automate especially that as much as I can. And then stuff, I like to use recon to like find stuff to hack on. So a lot of my recon is like there's a little bit of it that's like automating actually finding bugs, but most of it is automating finding interesting stuff to hack on, right? So frameworks that I'm confident are a little easier to hack. I tend to like personally avoid stuff that has like some of the brand new shiny like Next.js and React in it and stuff like that. I tend to avoid versus something that's still using like old school like .NET and PHP. That's very easy to fingerprint when you're doing recon. So like I look through my recon results and try and find stuff that I like. And I also try and find stuff that has a lot of user input, whether it has a lot of parameters or have a lot of endpoints that actually do something on the server side. I try and avoid like static sites and like single page applications. So my first step is kind of taking your recon data and like narrowing it down to a list of things that I like to hack and that I think would have success. From there, it's your normal thing, right? Put it through Burp or Kaido. I actually really like the new Kaido, but put it through your proxy of choice, whether it's Zap, Burp, Kaido. Click every button, spider it, all that kind of stuff. And from there,
I know you just said this clicking and spidering, all this thing. People usually hate this thing these days. They think that's like old thing. This is not gonna work these days. But yeah, that's not helpful at all.
No, it's so important, especially the bigger you get. I mean, these huge bug bounty targets, you're gonna find something. Like I promise you go hack on like a big, like again, smaller targets, or like if you're doing a little internal pen test, like maybe not. But bigger targets, they leave old functionality everywhere. Like they just like if there's no reason to pull it out, they won't pull it out. They'll just leave it there. So you'll find stuff I've found stuff in JavaScript. You find old parameters, you brute force parameters. You find like old versions of the web application, old versions of the API. Just by like literally poking around and finding everything that you can using either GAO or Waymore by XNL Hacker to pull like passive URL data. Basically, like before I even touch anything and like actually try and break everything, I want to see everything, right? And then from there, I worry about what actually looks the most breakable. From there, it's heat mapping, right? So like trying to break into authenticated stuff, trying to make the application do stuff it's not supposed to do, and actually doing, again, especially from a bug bounty point of view, like looking at the most impact, right? So anything that will probably impact it the most is where I'm going to start my time. And anything where I can get like from unauthenticated point of view, like to something that is authenticated is normally where I like something that I will test. And I basically just start from highest impact and like go down from there.
Absolutely. So it's about like having a personalized approach at many points, right? Like the crawling, like the approaches to the targets, the vulnerability detections and automations, right? Now, if it's about the methodology, right, and the favorite bugs are from CSS side. So we got two core topics here: the automation and CSS. So these days, I'm being too much into automations, right? So what sort of automation do you prefer? Like, supposedly you create nuclei templates. Maybe you're having your best tools, Python scripts, or what?
So I don't use nuclei all that much, especially like default nuclei. My
Default.
automation is Yeah, my automation is based around finding more stuff than everybody else. That's where I like to find stuff. I'm also like kind of a data junkie, so I go for finding as many subdomains as I can, finding as much DNS information as I can, fingerprinting everything that I can, finding weird, outlandish open ports. You know, if they have something hosted on 8443 that like probably not a lot of people have looked for. Um, I look for again like hidden URLs, hidden functionality. I parse JavaScript. Tom Nom Nom's new tool, JSluice, does that really great. JS Weasel does it really great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of tools for the JavaScript analysis, but JavaScript analysis is great. A lot of my recon is based around that and less around like taking the recon that I find and shooting nuclei templates against it or like scanning it. I don't, all the parameters that I find, like I'll put like blind XSS into most of them maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do that quite a bit, but I don't like put them all through, you know, Dalfox or GXSS and like look for cross-site scripting on everything. I don't put them through any of these like vulnerability scanners that just shoot traffic across the web because one, that's how you get blocked, and IP banned and everything else, and you get a bunch of issues. And two, like the resources you're going to have to pay for to do that versus the reward is normally not that great. So I wrote a lot of custom stuff that I use in my automation that's more about fingerprinting and less about exploiting, right? So like when I find parameters in the URL, I will send traffic to them, but it may be like a polyglot of something, or it may be like certain characters that I want to try, or a null byte or a single quote and stuff like that, and just see like if, for instance, the status code changes or the content length changes, right? Like that's a first point, and that's like doesn't prove there's a vulnerability there, but if I put in some kind of input and the status code changes, for example, that's a really easy way to tell me that it's like probably worth looking at something.
Definitely. So it's about the recon automations, right? And
Yep.
one more thing I would like to mention that I've heard that recon is not something that you should automate. Like everything that you can visually understand is the main thing. So is it better idea to automate recon, like the finding subdomains by all your 50 tools, with the HTTPX, the valid ones, the subfinder, the spidering, the fuzzing, the I will say wayback URLs, GAU, GXSS. Is it okay to use all these tools,
I mean,
or you want to
for
suggest any path for them? Like suppose, what I mean to say is very simple. Automation on recon seems to be very weird because recon is something which is supposed to be done personally, or I will say that visually by a human side, right? Because there are many things that only you can understand. So
yep.
what's your
So
opinion on it?
so here's my opinion is, and I tell anyone this who asks me, especially about the automation piece, I do automation because I have certain things that I do every time that I just want to automate. Because otherwise I'd be doing it, like you said, I would be as a human doing the task repetitively. So I'm one of those people that like, if I start doing something over and over, then I'll automate it. If I want to look for something over and over, then I'll automate it. For 95% of bug bounty hunters, I
Mm-hmm.
would use recon for the win. I would use just the tools that are out there and maybe like string them together in a bash script. Or let's say like subdomains, for instance. If you're a big time bug bounty hunter and you're actually finding bugs and your actual problem is just that you want more targets to find bugs on,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to Netlist, which is basically a security trials, just like a competitor. You can go to netlist.io and you can buy 1.9 billion live subdomains from them for like
Wow.
$600, right? A lot of people spend $600 on just the servers hosting their automation anyway. So instead of building your own automation to find subdomains, you can just skip all the coding, skip all the automation, and skip all the infrastructure costs, and instead just put that money into buying all the subdomains, just paying for the data, whether it's security trials, Netlist, Census, any other API. And you can get all those subdomains or very close to all those subdomains
Yep.
for either cheaper or the same amount of money, and you just don't have to do any of the work of actually making your own automation. There's so many services out there that are just purely data aggregators
Yep.
that automation, like you either have to like have something you personally really want to automate, or it has to be a passion project. Otherwise, like it's really, there's just enough resources out there that's probably just not worth doing.
So one more thing that I'm very curious that I'm thinking of is, like suppose we are automating all those things and all this recon process and all those things, but there's one more doubt. Like there are many people who will be asking that how to use a DNS fingerprinting or DNS data that we got.
So
So, yep.
I use it for a mix of like what IP space they're in, any third-party services they're using from CNAMEs maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, like I like to take a little bit of part of like the subdomain takeover game and stuff like that. So since I have the DNS data already, I of course
Yep.
like check it, but I'm not like a huge competitor in that space with, again, some of the people who are like crazy up to date on it. But the DNS data is basically like what IP space are they using. You can tell if they're using a cloud provider. You can tell if they have an ASN. You can tell that kind of stuff. And then like some of the CNAME data, as well as like MX servers and stuff like that, you can tell like what third parties they're using. You know, are they hosting their stuff on WordPress?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So I use DNS data. Again, it's more for fingerprinting than anything else.
Okay, so it's some sort of I can say that it's brought on your attack scenarios or attack surface.
Yep.
Yep. So we are done with the automations, right? I'm also creating automation these days about nuclear templates and having few bash tools which are gonna do like the usual tools that I usually use on the recon process and all those things. It's just the automated versions of it. But after it, if we talk about the CSS bugs, what's your approach on it? Like, what are the CSS bugs you would look for? What, how to test them for particular specific vulnerability and all those things?
What type of bugs?
The CSS ones, the one you started in the in the first part of the session, your favorite bug section.
Client side stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, client side stuff.
So
Sorry for it.
no, that's okay. So that kind of stuff again is like, at least from what I'm trying to focus on, is like content switching, iframe stuff. So for instance, Franz Rosen put out a tool like forever ago called Post Message Tracker that still works great today. That you can load a site and it will just tell you any post messages that are happening in the browser, right? So you don't have to go hunting for them or anything like that. It'll just tell you, and you can start testing them that way. Because post messaging is like the actual post message functionality between iframes or between tabs and all that kind of stuff is still a pretty like live attack surface that I know a lot of people are going into. I'm doing a lot of like personal research and deep diving into like CSP and same origin policy and stuff like that. And like weird ways that people are still popping like CSRF vulnerabilities, for example, and like escalating XSS to get more value out of like a simple XSS, using some of the like same origin policy like bypasses and stuff like that. So that's kind of, again, I'm new to it. It's my favorite, one of my favorite areas right now. But I'm totally fine admitting I'm not an expert on it, but I will say anyone who has more interest on it, someone I'm really paying attention to is Justin Gardner, or Rhino Raider on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Has recently been putting out a bunch of tweets about exactly that kind of stuff, whether it's post message tracking and handling, whether it's same origin policy stuff, what to look for, how to escalate stuff to RCE, like all that kind of stuff. And he does find a lot of the bugs that like I'm trying to learn and get a little bit better at. So I would probably just defer like the actual expertise knowledge to go follow him on Twitter and look at that kind of stuff and basically use the resources he's pointing out, as well as just like the basic like MDN and Mozilla, like back to the basics of like learning how the web works, pretty much.
Okay, so one more thing, like we have seen that it's been a long, like everyone is not hunting that much regularly these days, right? Some of them, so, like a lot of people are full-time hunter. They are doing their work. Some of them are there students that are unable to do it perfectly. So, as you and me, we are doing all these things, right? The hunting and all this maintenance. So, I would really like to ask that how much time you will spend on a program while hunting, from
So
recon to ending the program.
it depends. If
On
I
the
like
scope.
it, yeah, it depends on the scope. Normally it depends on the scope, because if there's not a lot of scope, you run out of scope faster, obviously. So it depends on the scope, and then it also
Mm-hmm.
depends on if I like it. Again, if it's a company I use, or if it's a company I really like, or it's just interesting, or they have more interesting stuff that I think I can like maybe try and attack. They have a lot of APIs, a lot of authentication, like tokens flying around, like then I'll stay on it longer. There's really no like specific answer of like I will stay on something for exactly 2 weeks or exactly 10 days before I give up or move on.
So it's all
It
about
really
the scope.
depends.
I was really known to that yeah, definitely scope is the option. But what if there is a single domain like an educational store platform? It won't be taking more than a week, I guess.
Yeah, normally not. Again, I know a lot of there are people out there that like say you should really deep dive stuff for like months on end. I struggle with that. Um, I'd be the first to admit, like I normally don't just like deep dive something for months and months and months on end.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really stick to it, especially since there's just so many targets to hack on now for bug bounties and so many different things to look at. Like you kind of just get attention sniped by something else. So yeah, I mean, if I'm not finding much and it's just like kind of generally interesting, like not much more than like a couple weeks.
Okay, so one more thing I would like to add, like in the recon process, there is a thing that a lot of people are having issues with. How to identify something vulnerable, or how to identify a point where we can try to inject something.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different injection points again, but it's kind of goes back to like you can use like similar to like a code review tactic with like sources and syncs. Basically, finding like everywhere in the application where you can either do something or put an input that will change dynamically the application, whether it is client side or whether it's server side. I mean, that's kind of normally what I look at.
Okay, one more thing, like we're done with all these things, but what are your opinions or the reviews about CTFs on bug bounties and all those things? Since
I
there's a
think
lot
people
of
who do
events gonna be CTFs and all those things for bug bounties. So I don't know if you're a CTF player or not, but what are your opinions on it?
So I haven't done I've only done like a few CTFs. I haven't done that great at them. People who can do CTFs very well are incredible to me. I mean, it's incredible how people like solve some of these. Um, and I've seen people that are very good CTF players that can transition to bug bounties, and then I've seen people that can't. I mean, it's similar to pen testing. There's people that are amazing pen testers but not great bug bounty hunters, and there's people that are both. So CTFs, I mean, are obviously good. I mean, I think they're good. But I don't think, just like anything else, I don't think it's like a one-to-one transition of like, if you're good at CTFs, you're good at bug bounty, or if you're bad at CTFs, you're bad at bug bounty. I just think it's another cool thing to do.
Definitely. One more thing, like your day-to-day using automations, like we can use Burp Suite, Zap, and all those things. What's your preferred usage, Burp Suite or Zap?
I was using Burp Suite. I have not renewed my Burp Suite Pro. I've actually been using Kaido. I really like Kaido.
Okay. Now, would you like to give any tips to the viewers about escalations? How to escalate a bug, how to escalate or chain a bug from P4 to P1?
Basically, well, it all depends on what the bug is, but if you watch the Critical Thinking podcast as well, they have a tool that a viewer made about how to escalate certain CVEs and like what you can do to get the most escalation out of your CVEs. Other than that, like some of the basic stuff, I would always hold on to and try and get the most out of it, right? Like open redirects, like I would try and turn that into something, whether it's SSRF or, you know, an auth takeover, something like that. Same thing with XSS, like don't just pop to alert one, like see what you can do with it. Can you get cookies? Can you not? Like, can you call, you know, can you load JavaScript from your server and make it do more? Like I would just try and escalate everything. As far as like tips to escalate it, I would always, like Google Foo is always the best. Like looking through old reports, if you go to Google and type in like HackerOne, XSS on PHP to like escalation, you'll probably find an old report or multiple old reports of people doing similar things, and find techniques that way. I mean, I would always do that. Like you're going to find a blog post or a old report or something like that of like Sam Curry or Franz or like any of these like super high-end hackers that found a way to escalate it before you that you can probably mess with.
Yep. So it's all about having a personalized approach of all the things, right? If I'm not gonna be sure on anything, I'm not specifying that automation is this and that. It's all about the things you have created from your childhood till now, right? It's all about the
Yep.
methodology you developed, the approach, the ideology, the identification of something vulnerable, and all those things.
Yep.
Now, as we are in the we have seen a lot of things, right? After the podcast, if this part is in the YouTube video, then there must be a lot of things that are live. Like if you're having any sort of tips and all those things from Twitter, can I show them on your screen if you won't mind?
If I have any tips, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, on the Twitter.
Well, my number one thing is it's all about like just with anything else. Like you will 100% burn out of bug bounties if you put a shitload of pressure on yourself and you're not having fun. Hack something you enjoy hacking. Hack with friends. Collaborate. Make it fun. Make it competitive. Do all those things. Like it's totally not a technical tip, but it is literally the best tip anyone has ever given me, and I hear a
Everything
lot of
like,
people really
yeah,
starting to buy
yeah,
it.
that's a very deep point. I would really like to mention that a lot of people these days are being very stressed. Like, come on, I got four duplicates. Make it a fun that you are able to find a valid one. If that's an
Yep,
informational, just go and have a chill pill. It's nothing
yep,
like, okay, you need to be depressed, not the career, right? And there is no career when it comes to the 2023rd century. We are having a lot
yep,
of crazy things these days.
yep, yep.
So yeah, definitely
Enjoy
that's
doing
not
it
a
with
thing.
people. Absolutely. I like enjoy doing it with people, share
Yep,
the information, like
absolutely.
don't like be active on Twitter, get involved in the community. Like it will bring you so many opportunities if you just like you said, relax and have fun with it and be open and be opportunistic with the opportunities that come. I mean, the bugs come. It's just like everything else. Like whether you want to learn to ride a bike or skateboard or do anything else, like the
Yep,
bugs come, they always come. But the reason why bug hunters fail is because they only hunt 10 hours and then quit instead of hacking 10,000 hours over 6 years
yep.
and getting better. All these people you see with with a bunch of success in bug bounties, like none of them just discovered that overnight. That never happened. It never happened.
Yeah, you actually need time to understand all these things. Have a time to read the things. It's not like something like you will get a POC and you will find the bug in your its own. It will take time finding the bug. It will take time understanding the theory and all those things.
Absolutely. That would be my biggest tip. Again, it's not a technical tip, but for bug bounties, that's my biggest thing. I will tell anyone who will listen. Um, all these big bug bounty hunters you see, they all have collabed with people. They all
Hmm.
have friends that have helped them out. They've all like had duplicates. They've all had NAs. They've all had that stuff, and it's been frustrating. I'm not saying it's not frustrating,
Yep.
um, but most of them have something that's not monetary driving them to get better, whether it's just straight up competitiveness on a leaderboard, whether it's gamifying it. I did a whole series on my YouTube in the beginning called Gamified Hacking because, again, that's how I look at it. It's just a big game,
Yeah.
but it's like you can't look at it as this super stressful thing that you have to force yourself to do or you have to have like a monk like discipline to do because it will never work. Like it's way too frustrating and it's way too difficult.
Yep.
Like 1% of people can do it that way. It's so much easier to like get involved in the community and have fun doing it and learn every day and continuously improve like 1% better each day type of thing and not have like any huge expectations that you're going to be making millions of dollars in 2 days because you're just going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, I really agree to that. Like every time you started it, you find like as I'm having classes, right? I'm having bug bounty classes and courses. I have seen people will be asking that can I attend this 7 day boot camp and get $10,000 in my month? Come on, man, it's not gonna happen like that. I can share on my perspective how I see the things, but in the end, you have to make it work for yourself, right? It's not about just add this bypasses. You need to understand where to add the bypasses. It really
Yep.
matters. And last but not least, thing that I would really like to mention about it is don't burn yourself, don't force yourself about it. Just be consistent, keep reading on it. It's not gonna be like something like overnight done and all those shit. You need to be sure about it, you need to make some sort of flow on it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, definitely. Now this was the end of the podcast. So before ending this thing, I would like you to mention three key points, or I will say the finishing points for the viewers. So what will be the first point?
So the first point would be to stay curious, find something you like doing, and research the crap out of it. Get really good at one thing that you enjoy doing. That would be probably number one. Let's see.
Yep.
The second thing would be similar to what we were just talking to. Get active in the community, right? Don't just ingest other people's information. Let other people know what works for you. Get active in Discord servers. Get active on Twitter. Talk about
Mm,
what you're doing. It will attract other people that are doing the same thing. And then the third thing, I would still keep the point that we've been talking about is relax, take it easy, be consistent, improve every day, and it's a fun thing to do. It's a fun opportunity that everyone can be a part of. The cybersecurity space in general, not just bug bounty hunting, but just enjoy being a part of the game. I mean, it's a super cool field with some super cool people in it.
definitely.
Those would be my three for sure.
And thanks for being on the podcast. I like really like all the resources that we have discussed here. We will mention in the description, and also like the tweets of with our end user helped me a lot, and I will be mentioning them in the comments. And hope
So that was for the video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out all the links in the description. See you guys in the next video.